students, we're looking at lesson 9-6, and it is the quadratic formula in the discriminant. And so we come down here to the essential understandings, and you can find the solution or solutions of any quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. And so when the quadratic equation is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a is not equal to 0 because I have to have that x squared part, then I can use the quadratic formula of negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So example, if I have 2x squared plus 3x minus 5, my a would be 2, my b would be 3, and my c would be negative 5. And therefore, if I plug it in, my negative b would be negative 3 plus or minus b squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 5 all over 2 times 2. And I would evaluate that. And so here's why it works. You complete the square for the general equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You can derive the quadratic formula. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So the coefficient of x squared is 1. So I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So x squared equals a over bx plus c over a equals 0. So if I complete the square, which is taking this term, dividing it by 2, and squaring it, and then whenever I do to one side, I have to do to the other, I get b over 2a squared, and I have b over 2a squared. And we also subtracted ca from both sides. And so then I have x plus b over 2a squared equals negative c over a plus b squared over, remember I squared this, 4a squared. And so, write the left side as a square, then multiply negative ca by 4 over a to get like denominators because I want to be able to add this. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 4a. And when I do that, I get b squared minus 4ac. So I just put it in reverse order here so that my minus sign is over here, divided by 4ab squared. And so I solve for x. And so to solve for x, I am going to have to subtract, first I have to take the square root of both sides. So I take the square root of both sides and I get x plus b over 2a divided by plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Then I subtract this from both sides and I get minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And I get x equals, and I can put it all in one denominator. That's how they got that. And so I get negative b. That's how they got the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So now let's apply the quadratic formula. So using the quadratic formula. So I said, what are the solutions of x squared minus a equals 2x? So it's not in the correct form. I need to subtract 2x from both sides. When I do that, I get x squared minus 2x minus a. And so now I know my b is negative 2, my a is 1, and my c is negative 8. So if I plug those in, oh, they did that for us also. So I have negative 2 is b, negative 8 is c, and 1 is a. So I put negative times a negative 2 is a positive 2, plus or minus the square root of, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 all over 2 times 1. So I get 2 plus or minus, when I evaluate all this, the square root of 36 divided by 2. And so I get 2 plus or minus 6 when I evaluate that divided by 2. So this plus or minus, I have to do both. So I have 2 plus 6 divided by 2 and 2 minus 6 divided by 2. And I get x equals 4 or x equals negative 2. Because usually when a quadratic, not always, sometimes we don't have a solution. Sometimes we have one solution and sometimes we have two solutions because it can cross the x-axis at two places. So now let's look at got it number 1. It says, what are solutions of x squared minus 4x equals 21? And they want us to use the quadratic equation. So I have x squared minus 4x equals 21. And the first thing I need to do is I need to move my 21. So I'm going to subtract 21 from both sides. And I get x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. So I get a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 4, and c is equal to negative 21. So I'm going to plug this into my equation, and I get x equals negative b, so that's going to be positive 4, plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 4, and that's b squared, 4 times 1 times negative 21, all over 2 times 1. And I'll write the formula out. So I get negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so my b squared was negative 4 squared, which is 16. 4 times 1, which is a, times c, which is negative 21, divided by 2 times 1, which is my a. Okay, so now I'm going to go start evaluating. So I get x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. That's going to be plus, and that's going to give me 84 all over 2. And I have to keep evaluating that. 4 plus or minus the square root of 100 divided by 2. And I have run out of space, so I'm going to do a little erasing over here. Hope you don't mind. If not, you can rewind it to see what I have or what I wrote. And I get x equals 4 plus or minus 10 over 2. Now they don't always come out this pretty. That's why we need the quadratic formula, but it helps to practice with smaller values. So I have x equals 4 plus 10 divided by 2, or x equals 4 minus 10 divided by 2. So I get 14 divided by 2, which is 7, or x is equal to negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. I hope this helps.